Yuanji on the right here is going to be playing Icelander with a full equipment suite. Looks like we got a full equipment suite on both sides here. And some pretty important ones too. I see a Heat Wave as well for the 5-player. But I do see a Sash on the side of Yuanji. So yeah, very important equipment here.
Yuanji was also just tabling all of the equipment he needed very, very easily and got the full suite. You know, at no point really had to work to get it. And a nice start here on turn 0 for Yuanji on defense as he fires off that Oasis Respite, gains a little bit of life. It's a blue Oasis Respite, I believe, as well. So, you know, not the full 4 we're used to seeing, but extreme value from that version of the card.
Yep, and now no cards left in hand for Yuanji. That's everything. So any more damage is going to leak through turn 1 for
and
Jeremy.
Actually quite a bit coming through from Jeremy. So a really nice turn 1. Was able to force a little bit of damage. Net was only 2, given the life gain from the Oasis Respite. But still, I think you're okay with that turn if you're Jeremy.
Absolutely, and that's a weird spot for a lot of 5s when you're put on the play. You know, you need to go first. Is how much can I leak through on turn 1 versus getting an arsenal? And I think that's a very good play and take. Here's a card that I do sometimes really like in my Icelander decks because you started that lower life total.
Oh, yeah.
This is a Scar for Scar that's almost always going to have go again because you're usually on the back foot in the way this deck plays.
Yeah, you know, Icelander in Limited, a little bit different than how it operates in Constructed. It's not quite as focused on the arcane damage, although I say that, and of course we saw Michael Hamilton just going to town with Wounded Bulls yesterday, so also has Scar for a Scar in his Icelander deck. So Icelander can play multiple ways, a very diverse hero, you know, different from Kano in that way. It has a very shiftable focus, and here's a nice play from Yuanji. It is going to be that Ether Ice Vein representing 5 arcane damage, red version for Yuanji. No fuse, so a little bit of a respite there for Jeremy, otherwise would have been giving up a card, but still, only 1 arcane barrier available in that equipment set. Does have Helios Miter, Quelling Robe, some other options to prevent arcane damage, but on the whole, very successful first salvo there from Yuanji.
Yep, Jeremy down to 11. Just went ahead and took everything that turn. Probably showing some strength from the hand here for Jeremy. He wanted to keep everything he's got because he probably wants to play all of his cards from his hand.
And I think he's got an Erase Face ready to go, which I believe was his first pick in this draft.
I think he's got a Phoenix Flame in his hand this turn, so possible Heat Wave activation this turn is going to be up as well.
There is that Phoenix Flame.
Yeah, multiple attacks from Phoenix Flame this turn. You might want to cash in that Heat Wave, and it looks like we're going to start with it this turn. Pretty much signaling maybe the Heat Wave is coming. We'll see.
I think that's an astute read. Anytime you draw a Phoenix Flame, you look to get a little bit of extra value out of it.
Let's see if Jeremy agrees with us. I do see a Oasis Respite in his hand here as well, so
and
that's a little strange.
Could have fired that off on the Ether Ice Vein, but instead choosing to find some aggression instead.
Yeah, going to use it for resources more likely than anything else.
Here comes that Searing Emberblade pushing through.
With a block from Yuanji here. It's going to be a full block, it seems.
Erase Face. There's the big Majestic coming through from Jeremy. As I said, I believe that was the first pick.
And yeah, this on-hit can actually be impactful sometimes in this matchup as well.
I think so. You know, like I said, the more you play Erase Face, the more you realize it does. And that's why I think we're seeing Yuanji having to think here. Does he have to commit some defensive resources? It does look like he's pulled a couple of cards ahead. Is just going to full block on this one.
So yeah, this does seem like a double. Did one get through here?
It did. It is a Brothers in Arms, so it only has 2 base, and Yuanji did not sink any resources into it. So he did let one get through. Not too concerned about the on-hit in that case, just wants to soak up some of this damage, and that's often the role Icelanders will take in this matchup. If you're Icelander, if you made it through these first few turns against a Phi, 15 to 11, you're feeling pretty good about where you're at.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan of this, and Yuanji's going to go ahead and start off by freezing that arsenal from Jeremy Stowe here. Yeah, absolutely. You want to make sure that you get any value you can out of those horns.
Yeah, get that arsenal at the first chance you can, and it is going to be...
Is that a red?
I believe that is a red, yep.
So it looks like it's going to be 3.
Ether Dart coming through for 3.
That's again, the 3 is just going to be accepted from Jeremy here. No Arcane Barrier activated, so it looks like he's going to go down to 8 from that Ether Dart. We're back over to Jeremy here. Yuanji with a card in Arsenal. If it's a blue, he does have options for Jeremy's turn as well.
Yeah, his deck is fairly blue heavy. like not so much leaning towards the blue power cards. What's interesting, though, he was able to first pick a Hypothermia, so could have some utility in this matchup. Of course, a lot of these cards have natural go again, so not always the most impactful, but if you line it up on the right turn, could be very strong.
See a block from Yuanji here, keeping that life total high. I mean, he's at 15 on his third time being attacked from the 5 player here. This is kind of a dream spot to be in if you're the Icelander player. Now, this is an attack for 4. This one's going to be a little harder for Yuanji to not take damage from.
Yeah, I believe that's a Mounting Anger as well. So, of course, very relevant effect from that card, able to push some extra damage as the chain gets wider.
This is one of the better ones. It does look like we're going to have an Oasis Respite from Arsenal here. Looks like it's going to stop all 4 of that damage.
It's important to control those Mounting Angers. They can get out of control pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's one of the ones that people really look for in the drafts. It's one of the ones you really want to target as a 5 player.
Yeah, I see a lot of people say it's the actual best card for 5. So, you know, opinions vary on that, but certainly very, very top tier.
Does look like we're going to use some Quell with those floating resources from Yuanji. He's going to go down to 13 here, but he's going to make it out of that turn relatively unscathed. You know, only a couple of damage getting through, and he's going to have something for, is that a Frostling? I think that's a red one.
That's a red Frosting, yeah. In Yuanji's deck, I think Yuanji was in a position where he got to choose which, if any, yellows would be played. Just that really good split of reds and blues.
Yeah, generally you only want reds and blues in most of the decks in this limited format, but I found that in Icelander, I'm okay playing yellows more than the other.
I agree. Yellows have a lot more utility. I mean, Icelander is more about disruption, messing with what your opponent does.
It
so
activates your wand.
Sure. Yeah, that matters.
Yep. Importantly, Arsenal for Yuanji. Again, if you're playing Icelander, you want to be arsenaling a blue card every single turn that you possibly can.
Yeah, and what that does to Jeremy is it just creates a nightmare scenario. You do have all those resources available to put into defense. You have your Helios Miter, you have your Quelling Robe, you have your Arcane Barrier on the Tide Flippers, but you need to do damage to Yuanji. You can't just sit back and do nothing. So if Jeremy ever commits all resources, it could just be do damage out of Arsenal, activate Waning Moon, and the game is over in that spot.
So we had a Rising Anger attacking for 4 here. Does have go again, so this is the start of what could be a big and wide turn.
Yeah, anytime you see that blue pitched, you have to be a little worried on the defensive side.
I'm always super worried when a Phi starts their turn by pitching a blue into an attack, because the 2 resources floating represent probably a weapon attack, and then you're probably getting attacked by at least 2 more attacks behind that as well. At least 1 more card out of the hand, and probably a Phoenix Flame as well.
And with that Heat Wave still ready to go, that represents a lot of damage.
Yeah, I mean, Jeremy's setting up to possibly have a multiple Phoenix Flame turn, and if these are both 0 costs in his hand, this could be an attack with 5 different attacks this turn.
The question is, does Yuanji have any disruption available in Arsenal? Is it a blue card?
Yeah, it would need to be an ice one, so it could still be a blue card without ice. We'll see, but Yuanji's going to go ahead and take this first salvo and go down to 9. Yep. So Lava Vein Loyalty coming in for 3 here as well. Yeah, this is the dreaded hand we were worried about, the 0s that attack with go again.
Yep.
The bread butter of the Phi decks, I like to say. So it's like this is going to get a block. Now this is going to be a Phoenix Flame.
From Arsenal.
Yeah, so this is not the Phoenix Flame that's going to be activated from the Phi ability. So this is going to be a Heat Wave turn.
Time.
Here we go.
Absolutely, yep.
It's Heat Wave time. It's getting hot in here, Brian.
I will not be taking off all my clothes, much to everyone's joy. Second Phoenix Flame, 2 damage. I've stumped Tannen again. He's thinking about me without my clothes on.
You needed to bring us back around, okay? Somebody had to right the ship there. It was definitely not going to be me.
Yuanji just going to go ahead, take a hit from this Phoenix Flame.
Oops. We're going to close the chain.
Yeah, and if that's it, again, I'm pretty happy as Yuanji.
Yeah, so we're going to close the chain here. I think he's going to be returning a Phoenix Flame here.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, it's some way a Phoenix Flame is getting used here. So this is a burn away.
Yep.
It's going to be attacking for 4, and there's still more behind this as well. This is not it. So we're threatening a massive amount. This is a huge turn from Jeremy here. I got to say this was awesome seeing this patience form with that Heat Wave as well this game.
Really got the most value out of it. And we still have Searing Ember Blade ready to go, 2 resources floating. So
Yuanji down to 4 here.
Yeah, more damage headed that way.
I said maybe he actually didn't attack with the Ember Blade here, fearing it getting lethal back from Yuanji here.
Makes sense.
Like this play a lot. This is one of those attacks you really like out of the Icelander deck here, as well as one we've seen do really well in Classic Constructed as all day long yesterday, or I think we're going to be seeing more of it today, probably a little bit more tomorrow as well. Maybe getting a little ahead of myself, but we'll see.
So. Yeah, Ether Ice Vein fired off here. 5 arcane damage headed the way of Jeremy. Has options to control that damage.
And so this is a card that has fluctuated in my evaluation as the format's gone on. Generally, when I drafted early in Icelander, I wanted my cards to either be blue, Icelander cards, especially ice, or I wanted the 0 reds.
Yep.
I want something that I could play a blue, defend on my turn, play a blue out of my arsenal, maybe activate my Waning Moon, and then if I have a card left on my own turn and it's not a blue, I want to be able to play it for free. But I'm starting to see the value from, I think Tarek was talking this, the fat spells.
I agree.
From Icelander, and I've kind of come back around a little bit. I used to just like not even see these as cards half the time when I was drafting.
You are not going to have the disruption on every single turn as you can more consistently have in Classic Constructed. So you do need to be able to present sizable chunks of damage, and cards like Ether Ice Vein that both present that damage and have potential for disruption are so good.
So it looks like Sigil of Protection is going to get pitched here for some resources. Arcane Barrier is going to be activated, but Jeremy's going to go down to 1 here.
Very precarious spot. And I do want to note, I believe Yuanji has the same card in Arsenal had last turn. Chose not to use that card, but that doesn't mean it's not a blue. There just could be a window where he's waiting for the last possible moment, forcing Jeremy to commit resources and making sure there is nothing available for Arcane Barrier.
Yeah, Jeremy down to 1 card in hand after this attack. He's got a resource floating. This is an attack for 5, so this is lethal. So Yuanji needs to make a move or make some blocks here.
Yeah, and if Yuanji does have a blue, he's in an extremely dominant position right now.
Right, so looks like we got a block for, I believe this is a block for 3.
Yeah, Yuanji going to take 2, falls to 2.
Falls to 2 here. 2 is not 1, Brian, and we talked about this a lot. When you're against
Very
5,
different.
it's so important to stay above 1 if you can. You don't want to have to interact with Phoenix Flames if you don't have to.
And you see the fear on Jeremy's part. It's because he knows if he commits this last card, he could just get blown up.
He could die, yeah.
That could be it. You know, blue frosting from the Arsenal.
Yeah, he's still got a Quell available here along with Arcane Barrier, so it needs to be something that hits for at least 3 from Yuanji. But if he has anything that he could play from Arsenal and have any resources left over, I don't even know if Jeremy can get out of this because of Waning Moon behind it.
Correct.
I think you see that on Jeremy. Yeah, he's just like
he just has to move to Arsenal. But what that means, it's such a grinder because now Yuanji has resources to play his turn with.
Yep.
And you have to prevent so much damage. There you see
Ice
Bolt.
If this is red, this is just too much.
It is red Ice Bolt, and I think that is going to get enough. That gets the fist bump, and Yuanji gets the win here in our